welcome to the Prospect Podcast. I'm Coach Schumann. Welcome to a rainy Monday, actually. We have a great guest on today, Coach Rich Holzer, which we'll get to in a second. As always, I have Coach D. Today he's down in the bottom left corner, and I'm up top today because I was last. That's how now we finally know exactly how that works.
You're giving away the
Um,
secret, though, buddy. You're giving away
yeah,
the
I'm giving away
secret.
secrets.
Now everybody's gonna say, "There it is."
Now everybody's waiting to hold their spot to get on top, right? Hold out. We'll start 25 minutes. We'll start 25 minutes later. Everyone hold out for the top spot. But yeah, no, it's great. It's great to have Coach Holzer on the podcast today. Coach is the head coach at Loyola-Blakefield High School in Maryland. Before that, he's been at quite a few places. High school wise, he was at Parkdale High School from 2008 to 2011. Meade High School, where he has back-to-back state semifinal appearances from 2011 to 2015. He was at Mount St. Joseph, where they're conference champions in 2009, and Northern High School in 2021. They're 3A state championship, and he was named Southern Maryland Coach of the Year. So, went to Hofstra University, got his master's in McDaniel College. So we're excited to talk to him. Dive into some things from a football standpoint, high school standpoint, and really go into there as we're really kind of getting deep into beginning the spring seasons here shortly. So we're excited to talk to you, Coach. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk some football.
Yeah, we're diving into it a little bit. I touched a little bit on your background. If you could kind of take us on your kind of journey within football and sports, and then we can roll out from there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Pleasantville, New York, and my dad was a football coach my whole life. So I grew up running around on a football field, like stealing cleats out of my dad's players' lockers before the game and stuff like that. So,
we love it now.
Yeah, looking back on it now, I'm like, I can't believe my dad let me do that.
Right, or one of these guys didn't knock me out when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, they did. They threw me in a shower and all that other stuff.
It's all the good shit.
Yeah. So it was fun growing up like that, and so I knew I wanted to coach football. So like I went to Archbishop Stepinac High School in White Plains and played for my dad and Coach Mike O'Donnell. And then from there, went to Hofstra because my dad had a connection with the staff. Coach Gardy, he had been when Coach Gardy was with the Jets. My dad had been done some area scouting for him, and then Coach Gigantino, the assistant head coach and defensive coordinator, his brother played for my dad in college. And Coach Jiggs basically said, if you come here, you're going to play right away. And then so it was like, do I go to a bigger school and sit the bench and and wait my turn, or do I go play right away? And I, being the oldest brother, I wasn't used to waiting behind anybody. So I went and played right away. And had a great time. I got coached by a lot of great guys like, Rob Spence, Kyle Flood was my line coach. Dan Quinn was on staff. I was teammates with Raheem Morris, all those guys. I mean, I could go on. There's other guys. There's, a lot. Joe Woods.
Dave Cohen was on that staff, right?
He came in. He came in right as I was leaving it as a GA.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I knew him.
Great coaches there.
There was a lot.
Always. Hofstra's great coaches, great players. It's one of those programs that when guys, they're like, which school would you want to bring back football to? And it was like, dude. You know what I mean? It was it's just unbelievable. Even now, the names that still resonate from that program that are either doing things at a high level or something and still it's been dead for almost 20 years. It's crazy.
I know. We always joke around with our quarterback because he got drafted ahead of Tom Brady. We were like, dude, that was a bust.
Yeah.
You're stealing money, dude. So, but no, I mean, Gio was awesome. Gio was a heck of a football player, And
Carmazzi?
Yeah, Carmazzi. Yep, that's him. So
yeah, I got a story about that. So, what year did you So, what year did you graduate from Hofstra?
01.
01. Okay.
Well, that was my last.
Would have been the tail end of you, right, Dave, at UConn?
He might have been a freshman when I was a senior, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
So So I mean, and from there I went. went back as a GA, and like, you know how it is. You're not making any money. You're living in a house with like 8 other dudes, coaching football. And typical 23-year-old, I got frustrated, and my dad and my mom were like, why don't you coach high school football like your dad? And so I just threw out resumes wherever I had family. I got a job offer in New York where I grew up, but it felt like kind of like nepotism because I got a head coaching job at a massive high school without any coaching experience in high school. So I was like, kind of like,
we know your dad.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad like volunteered to be my mentor and be on staff, and I was like, I love my dad.
So they hired your dad and like put your name on it. Like, yeah, we've all been there, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. So me being me, I was like, I'm gonna go I'm gonna do my own thing and like make my own name. So like, I threw my resume out wherever I had family, and Charles County, Maryland called me back within 12 hours of getting my resume. I was wheels up down there for an interview and rolled out of there with a job offer, and was packing my stuff up on Long Island and moving to La Plata, Maryland to coach football, teach physical education at Westlake High School for Dom Zaccarelli, who's is in the State Hall of Fame down here, and sadly passed away, but he's a great guy. And then from there, my head coaching journey started after that. Going to, like you said, Parkdale, showing up, 21 kids in the whole program, no footballs, and then going to Meade with my friend who was the athletic director there. We had some good success there. We had really good staff. I think there's 4 current head coaches in the state of Maryland that were assistants on that staff with me. We were all young guys at the time. We had a good mix of young guys and old guys on that staff, so it was good. I wanted to try private school because I was a private school kid, so I went to Mount St. Joseph, which was a great experience, did well. And then, like you said, won the MIAA. So then it was like, COVID hits, and like, we're at the house, we're stuck. And I'm like, man, why am I driving 45 minutes, to school every day? And I'm missing everything with my kids because they were little at the time. So I took a job at the public school right down, literally 5 miles down the road, and at Northern High School, and had a great run there. We went to, I think there was only 1 year we didn't win a regional title out of the time I was there. And then we won states, went to state semifinals. So we beat Linganore High School, who's a good powerhouse down here. And then in the state title game, and then they got us back the next year in the state semifinals. And then it was time for, my oldest son was getting to the age where we were like thinking about, we're going to start thinking about, all boys Catholic school for high school, just like I went to and my wife's father went to. He went to Sarah High School out in California, Tom Brady's high school.
Yep.
So we started thinking about it, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get a phone call from Blake Henry, the athletic director at Loyola, who I ironically took over for at Mount St. Joe when he left there. And he calls and he said, "Hey, I'm vetting an assistant coach." He goes, "Do you know this guy?" I was like, "Yeah, I know." So we talked, and he goes, "Do you have any interest in the head coaching job?" And I was like, "Is it open?" And he goes, "Well, it will be." And I was like, he's like, "I'm the interim right now." He's like, "But I've been told I can't be AD and football coach." And that's, next thing you know, that was that. I was rolling up to Towson. And my son got enrolled, which, looking back on it now, how hard it is to get a transfer into the middle school there. It's like, it just doesn't happen. So like, I got him in, and it all worked out. And, my youngest will be coming through in another year. So our house is sold, is just going under contract, and we're moving up to Towson in a few weeks. So, it's going to be a wild couple weeks down here. So, but that's the short version, or short version kind of how I got to Loyola, and, background with football and things like that. So, just a coach's son. I love football. I always have, and I think it's gotta be genetic, because you ask any of my sons and they're like, because they're doing well with wrestling and lacrosse. And, they're like, everyone asks them, "What's your favorite sport?" And it's like, no hesitation, it's like football.
Yeah.
So
no doubt. Yeah. Well, you're around it a lot too. You know what I mean? You start to like it, and if you like football, you really love it. It's a if you really like get, you're around it, and there's just so much to it that makes it great. It's funny, Gino Carmazzi, when I played at UConn, Gino Carmazzi had transferred in from Pacific.
Yep.
And because the Gigantino was I think the head coach maybe at Pacific, and they canceled the program, and then Gardy brought him in, and so we go to play them. This was in the mid-year, and they had another guy that was a starting quarterback, a smaller guy.
Yep,
Gino was just.
Yep.
What was the name?
Artie Asalta. Yeah, he's the OC at Fordham right now.
Yeah, I played for him at Sacred Heart.
What's the last name again? What was it?
Asalta.
Yeah, his dad was like special teams coach at the Bills for a long time.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so here's the story. So we go in, and our whole thing was like we knock him out of the game, and we're golden. So we knock him out of the game. Literally, I want to say.
Oh, I've heard this.
Maybe the second series. And in struts, you didn't know who Gino Carmazza was. In struts Gino Carmazza, a big, gigantic guy. And he starts throwing the ball all over the yard. And he actually beat us in a close game. Because we didn't, we kind of had a beat on obviously how we were going to attack the other quarterback. And Gino was so big, so our blitz package and stuff, he was actually able to sit in there and stand in there and deliver the ball. And so it was just, where he was really more, he can move, you know what I mean? So but yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy game. They ended up beating us. It actually cost us being able to get into the playoffs that year. But it was I couldn't believe it. Like, I was a linebacker. I couldn't believe it. Like, this guy comes in. I'm like, wait a minute.
Where did he come from?
We knocked this guy out, and this guy is better than him behind him, and then the rest is history. He ended up having obviously a phenomenal career there, and then getting drafted. But yeah, I'll never ever forget that. Like, you're like coached all week to knock this guy out. That's the key to the game, and then comes a better guy. So not that he wasn't good. He was good, but he was smaller. He was a smaller quarterback. But anyway, so that's my Gino Carmazza story. Very really quite a journey. You've been on, and within coaching football. As you kind of have gone to each place, like you've been at a few places, what were some of the things that each place along the way that stood out that you might have thought, okay, I'm going to kind of do this now or this now, as you've gone to each place?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in high school, playing for my dad and Coach O'Donnell, they teach you a lot of life lessons about growing up. And then playing for Gardy and those guys, I learned a ton of football. I was actually talking with Coach Spence Saturday. He's trying to start a consulting business with because there's not many run and shoot guys out there.
Nope.
Well, it's starting to be more, but he's starting a consulting business, and we were, I was getting him a copy of our old playbook and things like that. So I learned a ton of football from those guys, and I still have all my notes and install notes from Coach Flood, and drill tapes and things like that. So it's been a great resource there. I learned a lot of X's and O's. So from Zaccarelli, well, I guess as a GA, then it was different. I learned accountability. Showing up like Coach Gardy, had the GAs open the bubble, for the mat drills in the wintertime and stuff like that. And it was typical New York. It was 18 inches of snow or something like that, was some crazy storm. And I called Coach Jiggs and I was like, are we really doing mat drills today? And he goes, Rich, Coach Gardy said to have your butt at the bubble and have the heat on or pack your shit and go home. Yeah. So I jumped in my tumble. Right. Yeah. Luckily from playing football, I took my money and bought the old Chevy Tahoe Sports, and I had lifted it, and all that. So I was able to plow through the snow and get there to get it open. But so I learned accountability from those guys. From Zaccarelli down at Westlake, I learned about the recruiting process with high school. We had put so many kids in Division I. I think at one point we were putting more kids Division I than DeMatha. It was insane. Just the amount of kids that rolled through that program. And then from Parkdale as a first-time head coach, obviously, you learn a lot. So, and then, the big thing for Parkdale, I learned the main thing was doing more with less, just because the school didn't have anything. Like, I mean, we didn't even have footballs. Like, I had to go into the school office and be like, where are the footballs? I said, the AD's like, I don't think we have any. I think the old coach took them with him, so, it was like, it was learning how to do less.
That's a first, Dave. That's a first.
Yeah, that's first.
Yeah, it was wild. Meade was different. Meade was like, I learned how to manage a staff there. And I learned how to be more of a professional as a head coach and deal with parents. Dave Landon was great. He kind of helped me out. Like, I think any other athletic director probably would have gotten frustrated with, 32-year-old Rich, because I was hot, I was a little hot-headed and, still. And, but Dave did a good job, like helping me out, like showing me, how to manage the administrative side of things.
Yep. The off the field stuff, the stuff that a lot of guys think like they don't really, when they get into it, right? Like, it's not really on the list of, all right, we got to do this, or we think about this. We talk to a ton of coaches, and that's, for the most part, like, one of those first jobs is always, the amount of off the field stuff I have to deal with, or paperwork, right? I mean, it's no longer paperwork, but that access, that just like the dealing with the parents, the administrative side of meetings, the budget, right? Like, hey, I got to put together a budget, or just making sure guys are where they need to be on a regular basis. And then ultimately, and we talk about this all the time too, is the managing of a staff itself, especially in today's age where the younger guys, they want to climb to the top so fast. And, where college, like coaching itself is now a career, where guys will bypass playing Division III football for 4 years and just get right into coaching and kind of be ahead of the game. It's really, with the way staffs have developed now at the higher levels of more off the field stuff going on, like, we've just seen coaching become more of a career path for guys. And I think that part of it, right? We talk about coaching your coaches. That's the best, because there's no way that a head coach can be as hands-on as he's ultimately going to want to be and kind of drive that message home. Each one of those assistants are so pivotal when it comes to connecting with the players on a daily basis. Like, that's when you really, especially as you get into bigger schools, right, where your roster sizes are a little bigger, and you can't be on top of everything all the time, especially in today's day and age with social media and all that kind of shit. Like, I mean, it's just, once guys realize like how much they have to coach their coaches, and guys that do a good job of it and really take care of it. I mean, look, you're talking about 4 of your former guys are now head coaches, right? Like, to me, that's like, I take pride in that. Even as an assistant, like, if we get a younger guy on the staff or somebody, hey, I want to get into it, like, just having, like, just communicating with them and kind of helping them out a little bit, even if they don't want to hear it, right? You know what I mean? Like, hey, dude, like, I did this when I was younger. Like, that's probably not the best way to do it, because, a lot of these guys just play and think they can coach. Like, there's so much more to it than that. So when guys coach their coaches, like, it just takes it to an entire different level. But it's one of those things that, as a new head coach, like, you don't think about, right? It's not one of those things that are like, no, we got to run this play, we got to do this, right? Like, oh, have a practice plan. But no, like, how about, like, make sure that guy is literally delivering the same message that you are, right?
Yeah, no, it's like, you learn about but you also learn, like, how to read your players too. Like, like when I was at Northern, the first year, I had a good group of kids that were all juniors. They were tough. I mean, just tough kids. Kind of not. It's a rural county where we live. So that northern end of Calvert County down in Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were just tough kids. Like, I knew we were going to be good.
It's a little country. It's a little country down there.
I know, that's what my boys are sad we're moving, because, like, we're going from living on like 5 acres and riding 4-wheelers and all that stuff to, like, living in suburban, Towson again. So it's gonna be a little shock. I told my youngest one, you can't drop your pants and pee in the yard anymore. So,
there's no more of that. There's no more of that shit. No. Well, Maryland's interesting like that, right? Like, in the dynamic of football, like, it has really good football, no doubt. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think guys get, look, there's not a guy in the country that doesn't visit the DMV area for the most part, right? With the way kind of recruiting is now. I I think because it's a little smaller, it kind of gets almost, and some of the bigs are like big names, you know what I mean? Like you're talking St. Francis at DeMatha, right? Or even like Gilman School that has a phenomenal tradition, you know what I mean? And all those types of things, good counsel, right? Like there was always a team from Jersey that's going out of state to play a Maryland team or something of that nature. So it's really good football, but it does differentiate, just like here in Jersey, right? Like North Jersey football compared to Central, compared to South, like everybody has their own niche to it.
Yeah.
And feeling that out as a head coach can be extremely difficult in moving, public, private, right? Like everybody has their own little thing and you got to adjust to it. Like what your players are, how things go there. You know what I mean? Every town, every program is different within every state. And we talk to enough guys to kind of see that.
Yeah. Maryland's interesting because like you said, the private schools, like we're loaded. Like even, Loyola has had their ups and downs with football, but they've always had a solid program, good coaches. And you know how it is in the private school world. It's just tough competing year in and year out. Like there's just like some really good players, and good coaches. But then like, when I was at Northern, it's like, it's the public schools as a result, I think like it's kind of like weird because like, the counties that don't have access to the private schools, that it's kind of tougher to get to. Like we were looking at that where we live, the closest private school would probably be DeMatha, and that was a 50-minute drive.
Right.
So like, we weren't losing as many kids, and like Linganore up in Frederick County, they don't lose a lot of kids. And like, so who's dominating state football right now? It's Linganore, it's the Calvert County schools, it's the Southern Maryland schools and stuff like that. And there's also Henry Wise in PG County and Quince Orchard in Montgomery County. But for the most part, it's those Western Maryland and Southern Maryland schools that are starting to dominate public school football. And I think it's just because Anne Arundel County, where I used to be, like Meade High School, just everybody's down at their feeder program, like trying to recruit kids out of there. It's
right.
Bowie. Bowie's feeder program down there where Caleb Williams came out of, everyone's down there recruiting, So, I think it's been interesting. It's interesting to see the evolution of Maryland high school football go from, where it was when I showed up to where it is now.
Right. And you've been in the state long enough to see those dribs and drabs, right? Like you've been there long enough, right? To see kind of like the shift or whatever it is. Just like Coach Shu himself, like he was in it, in certain times. And obviously like here in Jersey, like group size, like, how big the school is, like, with the amount of kids and whatnot. But when we made the move to come down to Central Jersey, right? Like, cause up north you have your big privates, they kind of rule the roost, right? And they kind of get who they get and that's it. Everybody wants to go to those. Those are like the prom, you know what I mean? And then come down here and it's kind of a different ball game. Like you have some of those guys that, are private, but it's not the same pull as it is when you're talking your Bergen Catholics, your St. Joe's Montville, your Don Bosco Preps, right? Like those are national programs and very renowned, right? So that's where everybody wants to go. Here, Central Jersey, like you have your Red Bank Catholics or St. John Vianney's, your Donovan Catholics, but it's just not still the same pull. And the public schools here are bigger because it's more regionalized in terms of like a bunch of towns kind of go to certain high schools. So the pickings are bigger. And then you get more south, like more towards Philly area. Now you're talking a whole different ball game of where we've seen the South really South Jersey really start to up their game football wise. Now, look, there's choice schools and guys go to different schools. You live here, but you're paying tuition to go here. Right. But it's not like Florida where it's open enrollment and a guy could be playing on one team and then 2 weeks later, he's the starting quarterback on the team next door. Right. It's not like that. It's still policed a little bit, but I think that's part of the college world too. It's trickling down into the high school world in terms of these guys are seeing the transfer portal, they're seeing NIL, they're seeing all this other kind of stuff. Does Maryland have NIL stuff? Do you see any of that going on around there yet? Because Jersey made it legal a couple of years ago. It's not like big on the in like the forefront of it, but guys are trying to make it work in some way, shape, or form. Don't ask me how. That's above my pay grade, and it is what it is. But I don't know. Is there any legislation on it in Maryland?
No, not to my knowledge. I know it's allowed. I'm pretty sure it's allowable because, believe it or not, there's a youth league athlete down here who definitely is like, it's not an NIL, but he's sponsored, it's kind of like, okay, like I'm kind of like, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But no, like we dealt with NIL just because like our corner, who's Kari Adams, he enrolled early at Notre Dame. He was, he's good and he had a huge NIL. So it was like, helping his parents navigate that. And, I tried to stay out of that a little bit and just help him navigate the football end. But, our athletic director was helping him with the NIL.
That would be hard for me to stay out of it because curiosity, I would just want to know like the ends, which is, it's fortunate for us that, the head coach that I'm with now, this will be year 3 at this current school, but his previous school, he had a Rutgers guy. So he kind of navigated that world of like, Tennessee's coming in and they're offering this and, Georgia's here and they're going to give them this. And it was like, those are some of the, we're talking about 18-year-old kids with numbers that it's like, okay, it's like insane. Holy hell. Like it is wild. We see it kind of, I don't know, changing the game a little bit, manipulating it and whatnot. And we'll see some rules that'll come along the lines, but I was curious because that DMV area, right? Like I know that the really good, the players that are there, they're really, really good.
Well, San Francisco kids are on NIL.
No doubt.
They probably are. Yeah. That's a whole different deal.
That's originally Bill Poggi brought in that initial group and funded that growth.
Who was what was the one that was there? Like that really started it, right? Was when the what was it? Christian Brothers, the one that had remember they offered the USC Kiffin offered him when he was at USC. The kid was in like 7th grade. I think it's like a defunct program now.
No, they're still playing.
That was Eastern Christian.
That was it.
Yeah, they were Delaware. Well, I guess they were Maryland. They moved to over to Maryland, I think, at the end. But they were originally but that's David Sills. David Sills' father originally funded that.
Was the seventh grade offer.
Yeah. He was a great athlete, actually. But they used to come to all the
receiver at West Virginia.
It was but yeah, I mean, the St. Francis, Bill Poggi was originally, I think, Gilman School maybe before that.
Yeah, because we played them when I was at Bosco. He was the head coach. His son was a stud too. I think he was at Michigan. That's how he got to Michigan, I think.
Yeah.
But Maryland has a big. I mean, St. Francis is over where you are too, right? They're Towson area, right? I think
they're over East
Baltimore. They're more Baltimore.
Yeah, they're like right in the mix. They're over by East Baltimore by the federal courthouse.
But your DeMathas of the world, right? Like all of those guys, Gonzaga, right? Isn't that another one? Like they're down there, right? These guys are perennial powerhouses. Like anytime there's a Jersey school looking to travel or go outside, like Maryland schools 100% are part of it in terms of conversation.
Well, it's because they play in the Catholic that Catholic league only, so they don't. They're very similar to the North Jersey
Big North.
What are some of the challenges that you foresee since taking over the program in order to build what you're trying to build there?
Yeah, I think this is a different school. It's very much a school that has a lot of tradition and history. And they want to win and be successful, but they want to do it the Loyola way. It was very clear from the first time I interviewed. And, like when I met with the president, Father Baker, he didn't ask me a single football question. It was, how are you going to help drive the mission of the school? So, and they know that like sports is a big driver. Like we just had our Hall of Fame dinner Saturday night. So, they understand that like, young men, that what they want to do is they want to play football. They want to get their energy out and play sports, and they want to have, a lot of them want to go play college football. But, so that's going to be that's the big thing. Like our school is not willing to compromise on academic standards or even behavior, they are not like, they are not going to tolerate, they're going to do things their way. And it's worked since, 1832 or something like that, whenever school started. I can't remember. I think it was 1856, and they're not going to compromise. And, they said, we've been around for a long time and we'll be around for a long time, so, and I think it's special. It's cool. It's special, so it's a different navigation that I've got to do with this than like being the head coach at some of these other schools, because they're just, academics is such a bit, and the social life of the school, like all these kids are involved, like like, I mean, they're involved in not just sports, but just the activities they're involved in at the school is unbelievable.
Is it more like a Georgetown prep, like along those kind of lines? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
That's what yep, correct. Yeah, and like, I mean, my own son, he's a 7th grader. He's football, basketball, football, wrestling, lacrosse. He's in the LARPing club, the live action role play club. He's in the debate club. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, like these kids it's crazy what they're doing. And I think it's great. You know, it's going to make
phenomenal.
Yeah. So I think, you know, that's going to be the challenge, is just finding the kids that fit the profile, really.
I'm curious. So the Loyola, like, that's like the big Jesuit system, right? So are they also tied into like the universities that are Loyola there in Maryland? Are they all part of like a similar, like, you know, I don't know if the word is archdiocese, but like similar system? Is that what the Loyola-Blakefield, are they part of like the Loyola Maryland? Is that all in the same kind of realm?
Yeah, the whole Jesuit system. Yeah, we are. You know, okay, I didn't go to a Jesuit school. I went to Stepanak was New York, you know, an archdiocese school, and you know, Xaverian brothers started our school, like not St. Joe. So it was like, it's a different, you know, like, it's old school. Like, I always tell people that Loyola, they said, "What's the difference between us and like St. Joe and Stepanak?" I said, Stepanak and St. Joe is old school. It's like, you're going to come in here, you're going to toe the line, you are going, you know, it's discipline. You know, when you go to the cafeteria, you will sit down. You won't move. You're going to eat your lunch. You're not float. You know, like our kids, it's like a college campus. Like, they get their lunch, they go sit in the hallway, they go to the learning commons, they go here.
Right.
You know, so it's a cool environment. You know, and I think both environments have merit. You know, it's just
right.
You know, I felt like this is a great fit for my kids. So, you know, so this was a no-brainer going to school.
Right. And you get to coach some football doing it, which is really cool.
Exactly.
You see, and Dave, we've seen that a lot of guys, you know what I mean? Not that, I think it's a little different because obviously I don't think the middle school aspect is tied to as many of the private schools up here, but like we have a guy that runs a 7-on-7 club, and he's also the head coach up in North Jersey at Pope John High School, and they have a middle school, and he teaches 8th grade math, right? Like, so he's in that middle school that's now attached to the program, and that's the way he's doing it, right? Like, hey, come in here as a 7th grader, you know, I'm going to be around you for the next 6 years, right? Until you're a senior here. And it's just, we've seen the model all over the country, like obviously more so like in Texas, where the middle school football program, you know, they're the same name, they're the same colors as the high school. And that buy-in is created at such a young age. Whereas in some of the towns, you know, here where the middle school football program has nothing to do whatsoever with the high school. Sometimes these guys don't even communicate at all. And it's like, how are you supposed to build something and retain guys or make guys want to go to your school if you don't even get down there, or you don't even see them, or whatever it is, or there's a bad relationship between the youth program and the high school program? It's just, to me, it seems easy to that this would be the answer to it, but you just see it approached in so many different ways that it's kind of eye-opening to see how it works like that, and why guys wouldn't want to push for it. And I get the legislation part of it, right? There's a lot of red tape with middle schools, but like, you don't even see that many middle school sports in general here, right? Like, if a team has a middle school basketball, you know, you're impressed. Or maybe they have a track club, but it's not a team where they go and compete, or it's tied into whatever. It's kind of their own little, this is our middle school team. Or then they go and they play rec.
Public school? Are you talking public school there?
Well, public and private, like even public and private.
One of the things that's different, I think, like with your school, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like it's a lot more in the lines like Georgetown Prep and maybe Gonzaga, and then like in New Jersey, like how the Hun schools, even though yours obviously has a Jesuit slant, right? But and that's the tradition that it is. So as far as how they operate the schools differently, but but
that's a whole different conversation.
Like, it's more like Hunt's, like how the Hunt school or Lawrenceville Prep is like, it's like encompassing from the young age they come through that school, right? And then right, so more in the private, like the
definitely more private school,
but it's much more along. And I think that's an important distinction, because when you think about like Catholic schools, like where like over here, like RBC, versus like a Hun school, it's a totally different thing. Like,
Yeah, not even
so
close.
your school, even though it's Jesuit, right, which
Yeah.
is the obviously religion, but it's more in line as far as how the philosophy is from elementary all the way to high school, much like the high, very super high academic private schools are, right? Am I correct on that, or is that?
Yeah, we'll take chances on kids. Like, there's a kid coming in next year who's a great athlete, and if you follow wrestling, Kyle Snyder's nephew. Yeah. So he's great. He's a great wrestler, good football player. So we'll bring in kids that maybe didn't come from that that area and from different areas and things like that, or like may take a kid that his test score wasn't great, but he's got all A's, and he's got great teacher recommendations. So they look at the whole kid. It's like you said, they're looking at the whole kid. They want to develop. Father Baker's big thing to me was he's concerned about wanting kids to have a spiritual life and bring them closer to God, and that was his overarching drive, which I agree with. My wife is Catholic, so. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I was excited about was the middle school too, because like you said, we can develop those kids. The wrestling coach here, my son's wrestled for, Steve Truitt. He's been here for a long time. He teaches my son in 7th grade U.S. history, and he does a great job. He has those kids. We're going to start doing more of what he does, because Luke wrestles for the middle school team, and then he may or may not be practicing with the varsity team. So he double dips and does 2 practices. He's got all those higher level wrestling kids that are middle school kids working with JV wrestlers and things like that, and.
Because the younger kids look up to those kids now. They're their heroes, right? They don't okay, I love this NFL guy, but when you're just in that with those types of players around you, and that's what everybody else is doing, and now those high school guys are like celebrities to you. You know what I mean? I compare it to where I grew up in small town. You know what I mean? North Jersey football, it was a small town, but those guys, to go out and watch them play on Saturdays, right? Because we played Saturdays where we were, it was a thing. You wanted to wear that number because he wore that number. And I think that's what's built when you have those connections and you know what I mean? With the younger athletes coming through, whereas some of these guys, it's just wait, who? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? I see it at my school, even where I'm at now. It's a traditional winning program, and it hasn't been that in a little bit because of the I don't want to say lack of buy-in, but just the kind of overall viewpoint on sports in general, not just football. It's across the board, where sports just aren't considered to be part of the main thing, right? It's just not part of it, where it's all the other stuff that really just we know sports drive any school system. I've said it a ton of times on here. When you have a good football season, the entire school year is better. The whole vibe of the building just rolls through. What do you think? What about numbers wise, coach? What are you carrying on the roster? Do you have 3 levels, freshman, sub varsity kind of, what do you guys roll with? And then how many on your staff?
So we had, 48 on varsity. We had 58 on JV. So there's talks, if these numbers keep up, we might bring the freshman program back. And then we had a middle school team of about 45 kids. So we had good numbers. The middle school staff had, we had 5 coaches on the middle school staff. Then we had, JV.
That's some guys' varsity staff.
I know. No, yeah. Well, I'm lucky. We had 5 JV. We had, we had 12 total coaches between JV and varsity, not including myself. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so we have a good staff, and then we have student managers, kids that want to be a part of the football program, but don't want to play. So we have about 4 of those. They do an awesome job. And then, our athletic staff, we have a really good supportive athletic staff. We have 2 full-time athletic trainers at the school. They're there they get there around 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're there through the end of the day. The kids can do rehab in the middle of the day if they have free period. We have a full-time strength coach, Dave Barr. He's there at 6 a.m.
I was going to ask that. That was my next question, because we've seen that become a thing, and like a really big thing within schools. And look, it's like not like, hey, this guy's not a phys ed teacher teaching classes, and then he's the strength and conditioning guy. Like, this guy's dedicated to what it is, or they kind of split the duty and whatnot. But it's just a big thing when you can have that on a staff. It's something new into the way of, like, you know what I mean? Like taking that next step in it. And it's because obviously that development is so big, you know, in terms of those guys in the off season or in season, like just taking care of their bodies and whatnot, keeping them healthy. 2 full athletic trainers, guys would kill for that, or maybe not, you know, but when you have a good one, you definitely look at it.
No, it's great. It's great. Cause you know, like I sat down with Dave before the off season started. He said, okay, what'd you think of what we did your first year? And I was like, you know, I said, okay, here's what I'd like to, you know, change. You know, Dave was great. He's like, okay, we could throw some more of that in. And, you know, like, and he's really good at what he does. So like we were able to like kind of keep some of the stuff that he was doing with injury prevention and things like that. And because most of our kids are multi-sport kids. So it's like, you know, he's got other considerations we don't have like a football factory. It's not like kids are only playing football. Like, I mean, probably, you know, what is there, 10 or 12 kids on the varsity lacrosse team that are that's ranked. I think they're ranked like in the top 15 in the nation right now. They're all playing football for me, you know. So I've got to like, you know, split time, and Dave does a good job of managing that and making sure the kids. He even sets up individual workouts for kids, like. You know, like, you know, I'll say, hey, this kid's got X, Y, and Z going on. And he's like, that's fine. Tell him to come see me. And next thing you know, I walk in there and on the board is like Johnny, and Johnny's workout is separate for him, you know? So
that's great.
Yeah.
It's good. So, you know, it's a good setup. They do things the right way here. And, you know, I think, you know, it's just a great environment, you know. That's why I'll put my sons in there. But you know, Northern was great too. I mean, it was a great school, very support. It was a really small town, you know, and everybody was really into the football program, you know. So we were out there. Like tonight I'm going back down to actually it's a North Jersey guy. Joey Churchella runs the Chesapeake Beach Buccaneers, and he went to Bosco, and Tommy Churchella is his brother. And it's kind of small world. His brother was my youngest brother's roommate at University of Albany for 5 years. They both played football there. So I'm going down to do a clinic for his whole organization tonight, you know, just to help them out. Because he's trying to get things turned around there and get it, you know, so that they actually have a practice plan every day when they go on the field. He's like losing his mind. He's like, we don't even know what we're doing when we hit the field. And I'm like, well, okay. I was like, I'll come down and help you out. So, you know,
Dave's been there. Dave's experienced some of that in some of the places he's either taking over or just making the move to youth world, where it's like, wait, guys don't have a practice plan. Like, there's no structure. You're kind of just winging it. It's like, yeah, well, that's how some guys do it.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting. We were, you know, when my son's team, my oldest one was 11. They wanted to throw the ball a little more. They had a pretty talented kid, you know, had a good arm. He's a baseball catcher. And they're like calling pass plays, and I'm like, they're getting him killed. And I'm like, looking, I'm like, hey, what's the protection? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, how are you blocking for this kid? And they're like, because I'm running the defense. And I was like, you know, they were like with my dad, ironically, which was hysterical, you know, 78-year-old guy out there yelling. But I'm like, what's going on with protection? They're like, well, we just told the kids to block. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, all right. I'm going to fix this. So, you know, it was interesting, you know, like, cause you know, you got guys that are firefighters and stuff like that are trying to coach football, and they just don't have the background at the time, you know, which I get, because they've got to, you know, they've got to put out fires and like save people from burning buildings. I mean, that's a little bit more time consuming and important than the, you know, 11-year-old football, you know? So, you know, but, you know, I think, you know, one of the things I've tried to do is try to help the youth league teams, whether they're my kids or not, just help the youth league teams to show them how to stay organized, how to run an efficient practice and things like that. Not because they all want to know X's and O's, and I'm like, well, let's just start with like, how do you teach your stance with offensive line? Because that's going to fix a lot of problems if you're not teaching stance correctly. So, Northern was great because I got a lot of community buy-in for that. Like we had our kids once a week, our entire varsity football team had to go volunteer they all got assigned an age group and they had to go volunteer in the age group as like a graduate assistant coach and do things like that. Just help out with the community. And like you said, they walk on the field and like the little kids are all like, oh my God, there's Joey, the big tight end, and all, this kid, Cody Howard, would walk on the field and it was like a celebrity down there. He's just finished up playing at the Naval Academy, had a great career there. He's going to be a Marine Corps officer. And like, he would walk on the field and be like, there's Cody. And it was like, he'd get mobbed, So it was, it was good. It was community building. And, it's different at Loyola because we don't have a direct feeder school. We're like pulling from everywhere. So like, now it's more like, I'm just going around like with the coaching staffs, like, how can I, if I can help, let me know, and, providing the kids like free camps, like during the season, it's a recruiting tool for us, but also, these kids are getting free instruction for 2 hours, 3 times a season from us, so and the youth league coaches come with them and they're watching what we're doing and they're asking, I give them a lot of credit. They're grabbing us afterwards and asking us questions, technique wise and, why are you doing that? Why are you teaching that? And, so, you see these guys are motivated. They want to help. So I'm trying to, provide support where I can.
No doubt about it. From an off-season training standpoint, you talked a little bit about it. Like, what's your kind of general philosophy is building up athletes, and how, when you're tying it through all the age groups, like, do you have a progression level from the time they're at a certain age all the way through?
Yeah, I kind of I got lucky. I was at a clinic where you guys remember Todd Dodge from down in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I was at a clinic. Yeah, I was at a AFCA thing or something like that where he was speaking, and he was like talking about his off-season program, and he was like, I tell our kids I don't want to see him till Memorial Day, because like if you play, I think it was like if you played, I think at the time he was at South Lake, so it was like if you play dragon football, you run dragon track, you do dragon this, dragon that, and I was like, that's pretty interesting coming from a Texas guy,
right.
Big time Texas high school football. Like if they're doing that, it can work for us. So what I tell kids is I want to see them playing other sports. You can't other sports develop like I can't teach the things that they're going to learn on a basketball court or a lacrosse field or something like that. I can't replicate that in the weight room. So what I tell them is I want them all playing at least one other sport. Doesn't matter to me what it is, whether it's rugby or track and field, whatever. But the rule is that they have to get 2 lifts in a week, no matter what, with Coach Dave. And those lifts can be with their team. But if their team doesn't lift, they have to go in with Coach Dave on their own on their free period and get their lift in. And we keep track of that. We keep a spreadsheet. The kids sign in. And we actually have a platoon system that I started back at Meade, which is why we use platoons because Meade was on post at Fort Meade. So we use platoons, and the kids are all divided up. They've got a captain, a lieutenant, a sergeant, and they've got their underlings, and they're all keeping track of their points, and then they're reporting their points to me. And they're getting points for attending workouts, for going to college prospect camps, things like that. And, we're keeping a running tally, and there's a competition between the kids, but also between the platoons. And, the parents even bought in. The team parents now call themselves the parents platoon. So
nice.
That's cool. So that's kind of how we do it. I want the kids playing other sports. I want them being competitive. I want them, but also they have to lift twice a week. If they're not playing a sport that season, they're with us. And we follow for speed training. We kind of followed. I trained with Parisi up in Fairlawn.
Yep.
So when I thought I would when I had the delusion of thinking I could make a career out of playing football, my agent set me up to Parisi Speed School,
that's our world.
Yeah, I learned a lot from them too, and we're doing like a lot of similar stuff that they did with the wickets and all that stuff. Which
it's a good model. It's a really good model, and it's successful, right? Like successful, and he's sustained it for a really, really long time. He's pivoted and done some things and whatnot, but Dave's known Bill for years. I've known Bill, since he kind of really took that thing off the ground. Like, it's where we always went and trained and whatnot. He's got his own little IMG type academy going on now.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. He's really kind of sold that model, and it's been successful for him. And it works.
It has. And then the other big thing we do with the kids, which I think is different, I don't know if a lot of high schools are doing it, is we got sports psychologists working with our kids.
It's amazing, Coach. Yeah. We've had a bunch of them on here, man, and it's like I personally try to push it. Yeah, definitely. Talk about what role they play within your program itself, because we've had a couple on that work with kind of guys either individually or some guys will bring them in for like, hey, we're going to do a preseason type of thing. What role are you factoring them in, and how are they working with your program?
So we use actually it's Jersey guys. We use Z Mindset. They were wrestling Mindset. It was the Zanetti brothers out of Jersey. And I just learned about them through the wrestling world because our wrestling coach at our club started doing it with the kids. And Luke, my son's liked it. So I was like, oh, let me look into this more. So they meet with our kids 8 times a year. And they go through the curriculum with them. Every kid has a workbook, and we go through different lessons. And then I supplement that by because I've been around it now for so long. My northern high school teams did it. My oldest son is on a one-on-one call with coach every 2 weeks, and my youngest is on a group call designed for really younger kids on Monday nights.
It's amazing.
We do that, and they're talking about resiliency. They're talking about how do you prepare for big games. They're talking about how do you bounce back. How do you hit the reset button. The 4 mindset principles. It's great. I've seen huge benefit for not only for the football team, but even in my kids. My youngest was wrestling a match, and he was kind of sorry, he was getting worked up a little bit. He had just Coach Zanetti in the group call. I just talked about the reset button and how everybody needs to have a mannerism or something like that. And his thing was he would jump in the air and do this with his hands. He'd do the knee tuck jump like you see a lot of the wrestlers doing before.
Yeah.
Snap his hands. So he's in the middle of the match and he's having a hard time. And I just looked at it. I said, reset. And, and next thing he jumps there, does the thing. And he's got a whole new outlook and, does well, so, I think it's a huge benefit. Our kids, I think, are more resilient, in our big turkey bowl, they've been playing this turkey bowl for over 100 years straight. We play Calvert Hall, which is our crosstown rival in Towson. The kids at halftime, we came out sluggish. We got down, I think it was 21-0 in the first quarter. And we battled back and we almost won the game, and it was all, I think it was a large part was the kids' mindset, never giving up, hitting the reset button, fighting through adversity. Those are all things that, and the good thing is Gene and Jeff paired our kids up, not with obviously a guy with a wrestling background, but it was also Coach Kruger, who's was a state champion Iowa high school state champion football coach as well. So he's not only a wrestling guy, he's a football guy.
I think that makes it makes a ton of sense. It's really interesting how mental side can make a huge difference, make or break an athlete and how they compete. And it's becoming an obviously emerging thing where people are really learning how to better manage themselves, better, to compete and in their daily workouts. And it's a bigger thing, obviously, because social media is such a large influence on kids. And there's a lot of things that can derail them, in my opinion, at least, that can derail them in their ability to perform, and an ability to have success and how to handle adversity, and how they, has changed dramatically over the years. I mean, their ability to handle adversity, which is I think is a learned skill. There's some people that start out with more of it, no doubt, like anything else. But that's a skill that kids can learn how to handle, and they have to learn how to handle, obviously, not just for sports, but for life. And sports reflects that. And I think that's one of the things especially with kids playing so many sports now, so many different things, pulled in so many different directions, like being able to center them, bring them back to understand like the important aspects of what you're supposed to get from sport. You know what I mean? Because they get caught in the winning and losing. They get caught up in all that aspect of it. Do you when you like lead your team, because it seems like you're able to like compartmentize a lot of things with your program, meaning like this guy's responsible for this and this guy's responsible for that. Is that something that you see is really an advantage where you're at now? Like that you're able to kind of compartmentalize things, is not, things that you're not as much of an expert on, you're able to pass off to people that are an expert. Is that kind of what makes the place unique?
Yeah, I think so. I think as you get older, you realize you can't do everything yourself, and you have to have good people around you, especially with a program. Football is unique. There's so many people involved. Like, you need help, and not just from the coaching aspect, but from the management. You need a good team parent to keep the parents organized. You need communication with them. It's just a lot of working parts, and that's one thing I've really prioritized, because I've got my own kids now. Like, I can't be as
right.
I was, when I was 20, 26 years old and didn't have kids, so, I've learned to like pass things off, and, is it 100% the way I would do it? No, but it's pretty close, and it works. So why fix something that's not broken?
Well, that's always the hardest part too, as a head coach. Like, there comes a point where you're like, okay, you always want everything to be 100% of where you want it to get to. And the reality of most situations that give yourself the opportunity to be great is that you got to get towards that 90%. You know what I mean? If you get towards that 90%, you're probably in a really good situation. But that's hard to do. That's hard to do, because you think about it, you need to get, your mind says, I got to get to 100%. Like, you know what I mean? And you're striving towards that, but really getting towards 90% of where you want to be is probably going to be 90% ahead of most people. So
yeah, absolutely.
Which is really, which you don't realize when you're really driven, you know what I mean, to succeed. You're really driven to succeed. You're just focused on it's not 100% where you want it to be, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's that's hard for, obviously, driven leaders. So the final kind of question for me, at least, is are you, as far as like on the strength and conditioning side of things and speed side of things, what type of athletes, and you talked a little bit about it with multiple sports, what type of athletes are you beginning to see having more and more success in football? Are there certain kind of athletes that are being more and more successful? And have you had to change your practice structure over time to like kind of adhere to some of that? You stay with what you've always done? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. At least the schools I'm at, we're not like, some of the other schools down here, like DeMatha and stuff like that, have more kids that are just, and not all the kids, but they have more kids that are just football kids. They're in the weight room year round. Right. Things like that. Like, we're not, so we're very conscious of wear and tear on the kid's body. I've kind of done a deep dive on this Feed the Cat stuff with Tony Holler. And we're kind of going in that direction with short practices, sprint days and non-sprint days. And I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, the offensive lineman in me is like, no, we're going to grind. We're going to go, 2 hours, and we're going to knock heads and all this other stuff. And then, but like the 47-year-old coach who's been doing this a while now is looking at these kids. And I'm even seeing it in like my son, like wrestling's such a brutal sport. Like, I see like at the end of it, he's like, I'm like, some of his friends are doing like the
club stuff. Yep. They're doing this, they're going from practice to a club to a trainer, and they're just run down.
They are. And I'm like, and like Luke's like, Dad, it's lacrosse season. I just want to do lacrosse. And I'm like, okay.
Awesome.
So we're not going to practice or anything like that. We're just like, he's in lacrosse. This is what it is. So I think we've had to tailor the practices more to limit the wear and tear on their bodies is what it is.
I think too, like, and look, we've talked to Tony directly on here multiple times. We've had all the guys that that speak at his track football track contortionists. We've talked to coaches that have done sprint-based football for years, and the one thing that it's always comes back to is obvious, like it's the health of their roster, right?
Yeah.
Like the guys that have helmets and shoulder pads on and are playing in August are the ones that finish on the field playing, in the state championship game. It's the same kids. The decrease in injuries that we've seen when we've talked to all these guys, and look, not all of them are quote by the book, feed the cats guys. Like everybody implements elements, how much of it you want to do or whatnot. Like I think that needs to still be tailored to your program. Also,
Absolutely.
like football still is that it's a fine line between like conditioning, and the craziness of like just grind guys and kill them, or into the like just run them into the ground type of, where now with technology and the information and all the data that you can get back on kids and evaluating where they are and how they feel and stuff at the end of a week and how much contact and all that, you can now put a number on that based off of some of the technologies that are out there. Like it's easy for guys to see it and now can implement it and utilize it, where it just used to kind of be like, hey, this is the way we do it and this is the way we've always done it, and now we can roll with it. A lot of guys implement some aspect of it, whether it's a lot, whether it's a little, whether it's here or there, but ultimately it comes down to a lot of these guys just love the fact, and parents love it when there's health is part of it, right? Like my kids are healthy and they're able to go full go on a Friday because look, we never crush them throughout a week, or, hey, we're never in pads. Now, I'm not saying that's the right or wrong answer, but they figured out that how to implement it and what works for their program. And just the fact that you're even entertaining it, right? Because it's a hard sell, because, a lot of us coached the way we were coached, and that wasn't the way, right? Or administrators expect it to be a certain way, or parents have a outlook on it. It's your program, right? You do what you want, and with that you can now give and take, little here, little there, or whatever you want to do with it. But at the end of it, when you see a healthy roster from the beginning to the end, like it just changes the game, and it's a huge selling point. But it takes time, because guys, especially when it's something new, right? Like anything new was called crazy at one point, until it shows, you kind of have to sustain it and show that this is the model, we're going to do it, and it works. And those first couple, like when you first introduce it, it's a hard sell to anyone, to the kids, to the parents, to your other assistant coaches. You know what I mean? Because they look at you like you're speaking a different language, and like, what do you mean we're not running gassers? What do you mean we're not doing this or that? So, it's just part of it, Coach.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, and we've had to adjust and talk to our kids about how we practice and retrain them as to how to practice, and things like that. So it's been good, but it's also, it's been an adjustment. But I think it's the right move. And I think it's the way that we need to operate for our kids to be healthy, because, like our lacrosse kids are running to a lacrosse tournament on a Saturday after playing a game on a Friday night. And it's like, that kid's going to get run into the ground if I beat him up for 3 straight days at practice. So it's,
right.
I think it's worthwhile, and it's got merit. And like you said, we just need to figure out how we're going to do it.
Yep.
No doubt about it. I think that's a very important part of it. And you'll see as you start to dive into it, there's a ton of things that are really great on it from that standpoint. That'll make a big difference. I implemented it with my youth team, and it's helped tremendously. So, but anyway, I want to let you run. It's been great talking to you, Coach. Looks like that. I can see the house blurred in the background. Looks great.
I know. I know. I'm like sitting here. I got the boss was like, I got my oldest son's sports physical appointment. She's like, you need to go. I'm like, all right, cool.
So we'll let you run. It's been great having you on. Best of luck with the program, and we'll
Thanks,
see you
Coach.
real soon.
All right, awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Thanks,
Coach. Enjoy.
Bye. That was great. Good stuff, man. Really good.
I've always loved that Maryland area, bro.
Yeah, it was very nice. Very nice. It's a very nice area.
Good football. You know what I mean? Yeah. Solid football. It's kind of comparable to Jersey, but you still get a little bit of that South flair.
They're like Jersey in that
There's pockets, you know what I mean? Like a little
well,
bit here or there.
A lot of the
Parochials.
a lot of the parochials dominate. A lot of the kids don't go to the University of Maryland for the
Which is
best
crazy.
players, which is similar to
Yeah.
New Jersey.
Yeah,
Also,
nobody goes
I
to
don't know
Rutgers.
I don't know what the exact reason is there 100%, but having, run a lot of camps there, unbelievable amount of athletes in Maryland.
Well, that's why I brought that point up, right? Like, there's nobody that doesn't go through that DMV area as a college coach looking for athletes. You know what I mean?
I remember
to me,
Baltimore.
oh my God!
Baltimore and Towson have a ton of athletes.
Yep.
And those are also obviously Baltimore's a huge city, and Towson is a very good athletic small city.
Yep.
And then you got
Annapolis,
PG County.
right? Like Annapolis is down there, which is, you have the Naval Academy.
Small.
I love that area. That area was gorgeous.
That's a beautiful area. PG County, which is on the way to DC, so that's where University, like right near where the University of Maryland is. That area has a ton of athletes.
What's that? College Park? Is that the name of it?
That's University of Maryland. Yeah, that's on the way towards there. And then the lower part of Maryland, which is not yet DC, like Bethesda, Rockville, Gaithersburg, they're all pretty populated areas that have good programs. So there's a lot of pockets of really good football, even though it's not I don't know what the population is of the state. And then obviously DC, right? So
of course,
it's
and people get confused with DC because it's not Maryland, it's not Virginia, it's, you know what I mean? Like, people go all over the place of like, oh, where is it? You know what I'm saying?
Right. No doubt. So, but yeah,
like, is that its own category? Are those kids part of, Maryland? Are they Virginia? Like, because it's literally the District of Columbia.
Right, like the map is actually in Maryland, Hyattsville, Maryland.
Right. I mean, look, when we went down there in 2012 with Bosco and played Gilman School, right? We played them at Navy. I mean, that's when they were humming, right? And that was like the cream of the crop. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, this historic program. And, you've seen teams out of that area.
That's when Bill Poggi was there.
Yeah, dude, unbelievable. And then, and then good counsel.
Bill must
right?
be his regular name, Biff Poggi, yeah.
But you had then you had good counsel. Like, all of these teams were just really, really good and talented. And you've seen, now you have, your St. Francis's of the world, your Gonzagas, right? Like, look, like we've had, Mike Smith down in American Heritage, like they've played a Maryland team. They're like, those have been some of their biggest games and whatnot, whether they were coming up here or they were going down there. Like, it's just good football in a small area with a lot of talent, like, because sometimes you see good teams, but the actual talent of it, right? They're not maybe power 4, power 5 guys or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the talent level, I mean, you're talking Caleb Williams coming out of there, or just, you could drop names all over the place of that DMV area where there's a lot of high level talent in a place too, where other sports are good as well. Cause lacrosse is unbelievable down there. You know what I'm saying? So you have a lot of that too, and we've seen schools like where Coach is at now, which are, I almost want to compare them to like that New England prep school stuff, where there are a lot of like Connecticut teams and whatnot, like your Avon by the Seas and all those worlds. Like you said, like a Hun school, like a Lawrenceville prep, like
that's
a Blair.
Yeah.
That's the world that they're in, which, outside of New England, like you don't really see a lot of that. Right. And, that model itself where guys
Maryland and DC. Yeah, it's big.
Like, guys are going to be a part of the school community.
It's it's moved down. I mean, obviously all started in New England. Like, that's where it all started, right? It's kind of moved a little bit down the East Coast because you do see, obviously Maryland and DC have a ton of it now. You do have it in Virginia, at least Northern Virginia. And maybe pockets of, and then you do actually have it, and you could even see it, even though it's a Christian academy, you can see it with where Greg Olson's kid goes, right? Like, those schools are like,
oh yeah,
similar. They're campuses now, right? Like,
yes, they're campuses. I don't want to, I don't want to say it's a Del Barton, but it's got a Del Barton-ish vibe, right?
Yeah, like some of them obviously are. You can live at like Hunt School. You can live. I don't know if you. I forgot to ask them that if you can live at that school, but they still all have that like campus, um, that campus atmosphere. Which personally, I mean, honestly, like I'm just thinking personally, meaning if it was me, your kids could be different in what they like, but I think about like what is a good environment. I'm not just talking sports. Sports is part of it,
Oh no,
but
school has got to be a great
learning
environment.
wise,
Yeah.
like that seems like a great environment. Learning wise, that's you know what I mean. Like and it does prepare you, even though you may not be living there, but it does begin to prepare you. Okay, I got to go from this building to that building
Yeah.
for school, like which is more like what you'll
More
see
like
in
a college.
college.
Yep.
Exactly. So the
Just
beginnings of it, right?
even like school scheduling, you know what I'm saying? Like in terms of like when the school year starts and when the school year ends, like, you know what I mean? To be more of on a college schedule, like, pretty much Memorial Day weekend, like you're done with school, kind of like in the South, which models it more of like just the calendar in general. You know what I'm saying? Like those types of things. And then, hey, these are the classes. This is the approach we're taking. Like just the fact that everything is kind of tied in and it's not just, oh, this is what the state says we're doing or whatever that is.
The
Like that's
public
what's
school
great about
prison
those schools.
model, the
100%.
public school prison model, I do not like. Obviously, I was in it. You were probably in it. I just, I don't think
I lived it. I taught it. It's brutal.
that doesn't
It's
lend
not
you in the
conducive. No.
long run. It doesn't lend you to enjoy school. Okay, and
No,
I
it
mean,
makes you
look,
want to like it. You
the
despise
only
it
kids
because
that
you're
enjoy
forced to
school
do
in that
that.
model are really, truly kids who are really, thrive as an academic, and you could probably put those kids anywhere. Okay, like that's my, what I'm saying. Like the
Yep.
kids who are really good at school, if you put them on a campus model, they'll do even better, right? Those kids who
Yeah.
are good in that model will be good in
No matter where.
whatever model you put them in because they're smart, they're super driven
It's just
from the
what they
get-go.
are.
I'm not saying they love school, but they love learning at a different level. Like they're able to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids would like to learn, but we don't identify what their interests are, right?
Well,
So
public school model is more of a cookie cutter, right? Like this is what it
Yeah.
is, and then like
Yeah.
that you're always gonna have your 10-80-10, right? Like your 10% that really care, your 10% that don't care, and then your 80% that fall into the middle, and that's kind of where you hit, right? So your Uber, whatever, they just get the bare minimum because it's I got to worry about all of these others, right? Where I feel like that model visualized in terms of making fruit themselves, which now you're talking, teacher student population, like, ratios, right? Like how many kids are in a class. Like public school, you might have 34 kids in a class and one teacher, and you're just trying to survive. And it's so what are you really getting out of that other than being a placeholder and holding kids hostage? Now it's a bad experience. Now they don't like this subject because we already know kids, if they don't like it, aren't going to really be invested in it. So the teacher's just trying to it's more classroom management of like, hey, how do I get to the next bell and get them out of here and then just go, hey, here's a B. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. What did you really learn here? Right. Like it's the public school model. It's difficult because you're forcing, and it's why I say to kids all the time, like college is easier than high school. And they think I'm crazy, but it's your college, you have a model of, hey, you got to be here for an hour and 15 minutes and then you're good. And that's it. It's quality over quantity. Whereas high school, you're literally holding kids hostage from 7 to 3. Majority of the day, they're doing things they don't really want to do. And I understand there's a level of like, guys have to be told to do certain things and you have to take care of business even when you don't want to be a part of it. That's just life, right? So there's a little learning that, but this goes on a whole nother level of like, look, we don't need to be doing all of this for all of this time. There's so much wasted time within like the school day itself. Like it's got to, like, if there's one thing that COVID showed everybody, it was that, like, look, you can still learn without having to actually be somewhere for an extended period of time, right? Like just plug in 20 minutes, here we go, and you're out. The fact that they have like a zero, like a free period or a zero period or whatever it is where they can go and get a lift in, right? Like that's a whole nother part of it, right? Because we talk about the physical education world here and that how it's just like an absolute joke, but just the overall involvement at these types of schools where, like, the kids, even if they're not playing a sport, which is obviously pushed to do that, they're still part of something in the school. They're in a club, or they're going to go and support the other teams, because that atmosphere, everybody's thinking like in the same world, right? Like you don't just have a kid that's going to school because they just have to, right? Like those guys want to be there. They want to be a part of it. And that adds to just the overall experience.
That's what
makes it more enjoyable. And then you want to be there.
And that's why I think when kids come from a public school and they go to college, even though it's an easier situation, it's very hard for them to structure their time
because they've had it done for them for all those years, dude. You know what I'm saying?
And you're not breaking it up. You're not entering any thought into everything, and it's like basically assuming that
you're a robot.
The average person can't do it. That's what you're assuming. And
right, because you're never and everybody's not
just trying to evolve that. A lot of there are places in the South that they're trying to evolve that model within the structure of what they have, public school wise, I'm talking about, within the structure of what they have to get done, I guess, according to the state standards, but they are kind of.
But the state standards also align with that. Like they're pushing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you look, don't get me wrong. There are some phenomenal school districts here in Jersey that kind of do it that way, or they model it that way in terms of like, hey, sports and clubs and extracurriculars and like all that quote extra fun stuff is going to matter because that's what the kids want to do. And if they want to do it, then they'll be more conducive to put effort into it. Or you know what I mean? Like that's how it should be. And I could name like 5 off the top of my head right away that you're like, oh, that's why they're good at everything. It's not just a pocket here or there, or it's not, we're only good when we get a group of kids that are all kind of like-minded. No, because everybody wants to be a part of that. And it's public, private. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, you could name the schools too, right? Like, it's just how it works. And that model just works more so for that, what it is. And then transitioning through to college, you know, because we know how hard that first semester can be, whether you're on scholarship or not on scholarship, or whether you're at a small school or a big school, or you know what I mean? Like it's just a totally different model than what you're accustomed to coming from a public school, that it's so shell shock or eye opening. Sometimes like guys just get lost in the sauce and it's like, oh, well, I can't do this when you can. And the transition would be less drastic if you were kind of introduced to a little bit of that as a high school, you know, person, or even coming from middle school.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. I mean, that's the truth, you know, so it's good. It's interesting. I you know, you see these schools and you're like, wow, you know, they're really, even though they cost a lot of money, there's a lot you get out of it. And they're going to learn more life skills too. It's just
right. They're learning the foundations of what it's like to live a life.
I think public school kids, I mean, I'm speaking more for myself and what I've seen, but public school kids take much longer to adapt in the workplace than I'm not talking about the valedictorian. I'm sure you placed the valedictorian.
We're not talking about the top 10%. Right. We're not talking about that.
You talk about the middle, like, you know,
where the majority of people lie.
You could argue that the kids who are going to schools that are private schools are you know, their parents probably come from more education. I get all that.
But if you throw in the socioeconomic stuff to
model, I bet you if you applied those private school models over time to a lot of the public school environments, I bet you those kids would thrive too. Okay,
no doubt.
Yeah, I'm not saying that
they're just not given the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm not saying that if you know kids who have two parents and they're super successful in life that their kid isn't going to have a better chance. I'm sure they are, but what I would say is that the average person would do a lot better and would be a lot more functional when they get into like workplace environments if they start to learn how to manage themselves and be accountable. And then you could also take those kids who are not really ones who are not, you could really identify them and put them in situations where then they might need more, maybe they need a lot more structure, meaning that these kids do need to go from period to period and however you structure it. Like, but you could identify that versus lumping everybody in there. And now you're taking, maybe there's a kid that's not in the top 10%, but he might be in the top 30. Well, that 10 to 30, right, is probably a lot of your people that will do pretty well in a regular job or life, or maybe they become alive, but they get looped in with it. We're not figuring out situations because they're just not quite at the top, so and I don't know. It's obviously a much longer discussion, but I just think we're not asking enough questions in government. I don't care if this is, what type of government system it is, but we're not asking enough questions in government of how can we just start to slowly remodel the system academically for students so we can move them towards a better overall environment. Like, I just don't think we spend any time on it. I just think we're like, hey, we got the structure. That's cool. Like, you know what I mean? That's it. This is the structure. This is how it is. And you know what? If you really want to be great, and your parents are wealthy, you go to private school. It's just like, hey, okay, well, there's a good amount of people that maybe would have a chance if we could restructure it. And I don't think it costs money. I think it just costs effort. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. People are like, oh, this will cost money. No, I mean, thinking doesn't cost any money, right? I mean, thinking why not spend time at one of these private schools and say, what can we take? I know we can't take everything, but what can we take to the public school that would work and be able to take some of these elements? You know what I mean? Like,
and the thing that happens is that when those guys like bring that to the forefront, well, now you got to go through the school board, and not everybody's going to be on board with it. And they make you jump through so many hoops and deal with so much red tape that eventually, like, by the time anything actually gets accomplished, they give up. And the people that are pushing that, or their kids are already through the system, and now it's like, okay, well, why am I going to keep doing that? Like, rarely do you have somebody that's going to keep pounding the pavement, 5 years after their kids graduated or whatever it is, or they just move, right? They just leave town and they're like, all right, I'm not paying taxes here anymore. Screw it, because I don't have to. So it's just, I think they make it difficult on purpose. It's like, but really sometimes, like, you'd really wish that some things could get done, because everybody wants to say it's all about the kids and their development and whatever, but is it really? Because it's not. It's political. It's whatever. It's a title. It's all this other kind of stuff. It's all the nonsense that goes into it that really kind of takes away from people really trying to do that.
I 100% agree. Good pod. Good job. Really good guy.
He's awesome.
He was a great player himself too, as I remember looking before. He was himself. I don't know if he made the NFL or not, but I know he was.
Yeah, I think he said he had like a cup of coffee.
Oh, he did. Okay, yeah, he was very good though. I know that. I don't remember, like, because he's after me, but I remember when I looked it up that, like, it was like he himself was a very good player. Very good player. Which I also think gives him the unique perspective too. You know what I mean?
Of course. And he's been down there for a while, so he kind of knows the market in terms of, like, what it's like down there. But yeah, so tomorrow we have Dustin Atkins. He's the head coach at Ola High School in Georgia. Went to Dartmouth. So he's put out some pretty cool stuff in terms of how he does things down in Georgia with his program and some of the off-season stuff. So I'm looking forward to talking with him.
Cool. Hang on right after. I just want to go over this weekend stuff, because obviously there's a lot going on this weekend. So figure out how we want to handle this. Great pod. Really good. He's just got very, very great, like, kind of centered person. You know what I'm saying? Like, very centered person.
And he kind of gave you two perspectives, like, hey, I'm the high school head football coach, but also like my kids are at the age of like, hey, I got to make some decisions for them and kind of go for here. So that went into a lot of like the stuff that he was doing.
Yeah,
which is
I
really
thought
cool.
that was we didn't dive in enough to that, but yeah, absolutely. That
All right,
was
well, here, look,
definitely-
he already messaged me. It was like, hey, if you want me to come back on and do another one, like I'm all for it. You know, a lot of these guys want to do that because they realize like, oh shit, like you know what I mean? Like we could talk about all kinds of stuff. So that's awesome though. But yeah, I'll hang on so we can talk.
Most of them are used to doing.
Right,
Most
they're
of them
used
to
like,
doing X's and O's.
That's
and you know, first of all, X's and O's are great, but like you're only going to give away a certain amount. You're not going to give away the farm. Like, and nor would I ever, unless I was meeting with them one-on-one without a camera, I wouldn't ask a guy to give away a farm unless he was just super comfortable doing that because, like, they're, you know, if I was
but they're so burnt out from doing that. It's what everybody asks them. It's every clinic they do, and they're like, "Man, this is like the least part of what I do."
It kind of gets boring, right? You know what you want to do. You're around it all the time. You're usually going to clinics to learn from other people. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to like, I mean, there are some guys that love to talk about their systems, but
which is
but
fine.
you're trying to also keep your competitive advantage a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So you only want to dive into it to a certain extent. I mean, even when we had Bixby on, like I got the vibe like they didn't want to go crazy diving into it, you know, just because. And I understand that, like, because it's your everybody's offensive system, unless you are really running a cookie cutter like system from the past. It's very proprietary to how you operate your offense, defense, whatever, between word, verbiage, and all that stuff. So why would you want anybody to really know too much about it? Now, when you retire, that's a great part about the retire guys. They'll tell you it all.
They'll give you the farm, bro.
They'll give you the farm. But like, I
mean, Christ, Coach Sadlock wrote a book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's when you write a book. You write a book, you know. And otherwise, it's guys that work for you that learn it all, or guys that work for you or compete against you. You know, those are the guys that probably learn more about your system, or guys who visit you one-on-one. Because I always go back to the Oklahoma days when the guy who ran, I can't remember who ran the triple option at Texas to Wishbone first was famous Dow Royal, and he was so giving, and like, you know, what's the name talked about it, the guy who we had on, the older guy. He was so giving, he allowed everybody to come in there, including Barry Switzer. Okay. Barry Switzer, you know, brought it back to Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, rival.
Yeah, right, his rival. He was the OC. They won a bunch of games. Then when he became the DC, now Barry Switzer was just probably a little bit better recruiter. You know what I'm saying? It's not that he ran the system better, but he's a better recruiter. So now he's running the same system but getting better guys, and now he's beating Darryl Royal. It's like so that's why you do get guys over time. Now Darryl Royal was a great guy, didn't care, you know, but you know, like I would say many guys today are not going to be like, I'm not going to be Darryl Royal. Just give my competitor a system and he beats me, you know?
Right.
Which is hard. I mean, but anyway, let's end this. I do have a couple questions, and then we'll go for a great pod. Really good guest. Really good guest. All right.